Welcome to the Hockey Writers Ink, the show where the writer is fresh off the presses and the ink is not dry. Relax, the keyboard is off and the press box is closed, but the mic is just getting warmed up. Join your host, Lance Green, the guardian of the blue paint turned writer, and your co-host, Ron, SteelFlyers, as we bring you all the latest on the Philadelphia Flyers. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next episode of the Hockey Writers Ink with your host, Lance Green.
All right, guys, let's talk some Flyers hockey.
I'll tell you what, man, there's been quite a few games that have happened over the last few days here, a week or so, whatever, and we're kind of getting into the meat of the schedule here now, you know what I mean, right, Lance?
Yeah, I think we kind of know what we are as far as a team. I expected a little bit more, I got to tell you, after, the strong showing last season and the addition of Mishkov, obviously. But, we are what we are. And I think, with my latest article, I kind of pointed out maybe where we could get better.
Maybe. I'll tell you what, we're going to dive into Lance's latest article and a lot of other things here in this episode of the Hockey Writers Inc., a Philadelphia Flyers-centric podcast, a ranked Philadelphia Flyers-centric podcast in the top 10 of all Philadelphia Flyers podcasts. And that's because of you folks out there. Thank you all very much. If you like what we do, please hit the like and subscribe because it really helps. It gets us noticed and helps to get you the latest episodes. So please hit that like and subscribe button if you like what we do. We're going to dive right into it here, folks, with episode number 184. And boy, the Flyers sure could use some help down the middle, couldn't they? I mean, completely based off of Lance's latest article, and we're going to talk about that here too. So episode number 185, boy, the Flyers sure could use some help down the middle. And I think, Lance, you're way on board with that. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, in the last couple of games, I don't know, it's kind of like somebody read the article and woke up because some of the centers actually started playing some hockey over the past couple of games since this article came out. But still, I believe it's needed for sure.
Major lacking. You know what I mean? So, all right, well, let's do that. Let's just dive right into Lance's latest article. By the way, you have to go on over to SteelFlyers.com. Check out Lance's latest article that we're going to talk about here, and it's about a certain center, Ryan McAllister from the Checkers, and was actually a player that Prospect Watch interviewed 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got to go over to SteelFlyers.com, check out the article, see what we're talking about, and then you can hop on over to Prospect Watch and actually watch the interview that we did with this player that we're going to talk about here. And Lance, in your article, you talked about Ryan McAllister. Okay. Now, Ryan McAllister was an amazing talent in juniors playing for the Brooks Bandits. He lit up all of the records that you could possibly have there at Brooks Bandits, outshining even Cale Makar when he was there. So, I mean, when you have a player of that level, you know what I mean? And the fact that he wasn't drafted, I mean, I'm scratching my dome on that, man, with the amount of points and scoring that this guy's been able to do. I mean, talk to me about what the inspiration was behind this article and why did you zero in on such a talented player like Ryan McAllister?
So a couple of things. Starting out, what the basis of this article was the lack of production that I've seen from the Flyers at the center position. And, this again was, I think, written before the Red Wings game. Okay?
Yeah.
So it previously to that is where I pulled some of these stats, but let's dive in here to kind of get what I was saying. Now, Sean Couturier, at that point, he recorded 15 points in 30 games, half a point per game player, 0.20 goals per game. All right. That's pretty bad considering he's getting paid over $7 million. Morgan
Yeah.
Frost, at the time I wrote this, only had 4 goals on the season and 12 points. That's an average of 0.14 goals per game and 0.44 points per game. Scott Lawton, he had 7 goals when I wrote this article, 14 points, which computed to 0.22 goals per game and 0.45 points per game.
Oh my
Noah,
gosh.
Noah Cates, 2 goals, 7 points for a whopping 0.07 goals per game and 0.25 points per game. And then to round it out, Ryan Paling, who only had 1 goal before this article, or when this article was written, in 28 games played. All right. And that's an average of 0.03 goals per game and 0.32 points per game. All right, Steel, that is seriously lacking production.
We don't even
down
have
the middle.
we don't even have combined 4 players combined, not even a point per game. All 4 centers combined are not even a point per game. I don't know about y'all, but you're not going to win a lot of games when the heart of your offense down the middle is not really offense. I mean, oh my gosh, dude, those are paltry numbers.
That's some serious. When I started diving into this, I was blown away. Yeah,
Oh.
was blown away, especially when you consider Morgan Frost and Couturier playing with the likes of Mishkov, Konechny, Owen Tippett. Like, these guys are pretty darn good wingers. I think the Flyers have, especially, some of these top end guys. And what really brought me to scratch my head is that the Flyers signed a guy in Anthony Richard, rather,
Yeah.
who is putting up, basically almost a point per game level because he's come in and out of the lineup, but he's a firecracker. He's full of energy, great forechecker and all this, and they're not utilizing him at all. And I don't know. I mean, he has 6 points in 7 games played. I don't know why, when you don't have the production from these other guys, that you then wouldn't, keep him in the lineup. But anyway, somebody has been reading this article because the Flyers have been stepping up, right? But
the last 2 games anyway, since the last
couple of games, some of the centers have been stepping up. And but even still, I would say the Flyers should pursue this. Now, I know they went out and, of course, drafted, a great player in Jet Lachenko.
Yeah.
But he's back with the Storm, and, he's playing great this season with the Storm. Even got elected to be on, Team Canada's World Junior Championship team, which is an honor, and he'll get to definitely showcase himself there with some pretty amazing players. But, there is a need still, I think, for a center this year that can come in, and like the article says, they have to do that without breaking the bank and without giving up the entire farm system, because, every team they're going to contact is going to look at the fact that the Flyers have 3 first-round picks and potentially 3 second-round picks in this draft. So if you got anybody who is in the NHL, they're going to be asking for some pretty hefty returns for this.
No, I get you.
And also behind that is, I think that we've seen Mishkov come in and he was on fire to begin with, but now everybody's targeting him. He's leading the league, where he was at this time, in rookie points and everything like that. You need somebody that he can play off of and play with. That's going to take the pressure off of him. and also help him out a little bit. Because of this lack of production as far as the centers go. I think he thinks he has to do it all, and sometimes he does when with like these things with the Michigan goals and everything else behind the net, because who's he going to pass it to in front of the net?
Nobody, because there's nobody
guys
standing there.
A goal a season, this is crap. But the Flyers can't go out and get like a Shane Pinto or Josh Norris from Ottawa. They're overrated in my book. You look around the league, you see a Peyton Krebs that's struggling. That was a former first-round pick in Buffalo. He's got speed. He'd be enticing to bring in, but I think Buffalo's all but broke him down, as they do most players. Zegras from Anaheim, but I think
I think that ship has sailed.
He's constantly hurt as well. Showboating attitude, just kind of. I think he would send John Tortorella to an early grave, because
like I think that ship has sailed. I don't think Zegras is ever going to come.
As much as Tortorella hates Mishkov doing that type of stuff, Trevor Zegras does that all the time. So I think he's going to have a coronary if
maybe
if Zegras was brought in. So I got to looking around the league and decided that maybe the Flyers could look for a player that isn't quite there yet, kind of like they did with Owen Tippett, where maybe they touched a little bit in the NHL and kind of brought up, but they were put back down in the minors and kind of just buried in the depth chart, if you will. And when I started to look at that, one name popped out to me, and that was Ryan McAllister. Like you said, Steel, a player that we interviewed on our other podcast, Prospect Watch, a couple of years back. And he is with the Florida Panthers organization, who signed him after an amazing season at Western Michigan University, which, mind you, is Keith Jones' alma mater. And if you ever listen to Keith Jones when he was doing telecasts and everything like that, he loves Western Michigan, and he had an amazing time there, and he still thinks they produce amazing talent as they do. And but the Panthers thought wisely, and they signed McAllister after his freshman year, where he led most of the year in points in the NCAA and finished with 13 goals, 36 assists, and 49 points in 39 games played, for an average in college in his freshman year of 1.25 points per game. Now,
if the Flyers were to see that kind of production, I mean,
So Ryan's been playing for the Checkers, like you said, down in Charlotte, and the AHL's, team affiliation for the Panthers, some of their players anyway. And, at this point, he scored 7 goals and 8 assists for 15 points in 16 games played down in the AHL. All right. And at the point of this article was written, he was on pace to finish the season with 28 goals, 33 assists for 61 points in the AHL if he's just stayed down there all year long. But he very well could be, because the Panthers are kind of loaded down the middle and they need help on the wings, or potentially on the back end. Which
although Florida's looking really strong this year as well. You know what I mean?
That's the team that's going to want that one extra piece, right? That one extra piece to kind of solidify them for the playoff run. Maybe a veteran defenseman, maybe certain one on the Flyers roster that
certain Johnson
has a Stanley Cup pedigree or something, whatever. Maybe a veteran defender or a third or fourth line winger that could kind of bolster that up. And then I offered a couple of names up in the article as well, but also in the article, I showed some stats on some players that were spectacular when they played with Ryan, and how they're doing now since they went to different teams and such, and it's a drastic difference, Steel. And some of these players are great players in their own right, but they just broke records, like a Zach Bookman. When he played with them at the Bandits, he broke or annihilated Cal McCarr's record of 75 points for AHL or AJHL defenseman by posting 102 points the year he played with Ryan McAllister. And there's a couple other players, one from Western Michigan who he played with, and everything else in there. And it just shows how Ryan's talents can take a good player and just make them great and get the best out of them. And I think that this is the kind of guy that is needed to kind of help Mishkov and others, on the Flyers. Tyson Forster, whomever, Bobby Brink, could bring some of the best qualities out of these other guys who are kind of in a slump right now, or were not up to par where we think they, were. And that is just what, Ryan can potentially do. But again, he's being buried in that system in Florida, because they're cup winning team. They have a roster, and they usually love to play veterans over talented youth, because they're at that point where they're potentially cup winning team again this year, but they just might need a little something else, but not help down the middle. So I think he could be had, or a plan could be had for relatively inexpensive, return and on investment. And it's somebody that the Flyers, could bring in, hopefully like an Owen Tippett, and give him the playing time and allow him to just flourish.
Yeah. And quite frankly, I don't know if I would necessarily be trading a player for that. If not, maybe future considerations, or if you want to do an AHL swap for an AHL swap.
Well, it depends who it is. Still, it depends who it is. Like I was saying, do we really need an Eric Johnson? I don't think we really need an Eric Johnson on the team, but might a team like the Florida Panthers, might they be able to use him down the stretch, a veteran defenseman in the locker room or on the ice who has Stanley Cup winning experience to help them down the road there, or a Bobby Brink who kind of really hasn't flourished in that realm, or taking one of those centers that we talked about, maybe a Noah Cates, and kind of dealing him off, who has defensive efforts and stuff like that.
Frankly, I would much rather see Frosty go than Cates if I had my choice.
Yeah, it all depends. It all depends on salary cap and all that, and what the other pieces of the pie are going to be in that trade. But trading one of those guys for me would kind of give them another shot somewhere else, because players like Frost have been in the Flyer system for quite a long time and kind of just hasn't lived up to expectations, and it's bringing in a younger kid who's still hungry, and would appreciate the opportunity and probably flourish getting to play with the type of wingers that he is going to get a chance to play with here. So I think something needs to be done. The Flyers have been talking to multiple teams. The Kings have been out there. The Red Wings have been mentioned. There's stuff brewing, but I think they got to strike while the iron is hot here.
I agree.
Obviously, they're still building for the future, so that's why I suggested a guy maybe like a Ryan to come in, and it's not a veteran that's going to help now. It's a kid that can help now and in the future, and he's still on a rookie deal. So we're going to be able to retain him for some time. That is the type of deal. I'm not saying it's essentially got to be this player, although I would like it to be. But
yeah, right.
it's needed. I don't think, we have a lot of draft picks, yes, coming up this summer, but they're still going to be a year or two away, most
We
of
need
them.
guys now.
We need somebody else now, and we need to continue to get rid of some of these type players like a Frost or somebody like that who's been in the system for some time now. It's not necessarily Danny Briere's guy. He didn't really draft him. It hasn't worked out. Some of those other pieces have got to go away to make room for others.
Clearly, you know what I mean? Clearly. And I think, quite frankly, I think we might see that this season with this upcoming draft for the Flyers, because with that many draft picks in the first and second round,
yeah,
I really feel that what Danny Briere has done was set this team up for a generational turn. You know what I mean? Because when you have that many first round draft picks, the potential to get 3 guys in the first round that could change the course of this franchise in the next 10 years. You know what I mean? Instead of being like what Chuck Fletcher was doing, was trying to set this team back 10 years. You know what I mean, right? Okay, so, but it's just like what you said, Lance. Yeah, we're building for the future, but with this fan base and what they're even the management is even still talking about is, hey, we still need to put a good product out on the ice right now. Right? You know what I mean? And you still need to be able to say, okay, we're still trying to win this year. So I think with what you're saying here and marrying this with this article and with a player like Ryan and bringing this guy in and giving him an opportunity to play with some of these guys that are on the Flyers, I think would only be a benefit for the Flyers moving forward. And I wouldn't have a problem with getting rid of a Frost or even a Cates or somebody even down the middle to make room for this guy. You know what I mean? Because I would much rather not see them use draft picks. You know what I mean? And we're on the freeze right now. The imposed freeze, trade freeze for the NHL from the 20th till the 27th for the holiday break. So there's no deals going to happen right now. But Lance, I want to build on kind of what you said earlier about doing this while the fire is hot. Don't wait until the trade deadline. Do it now. Your team is struggling now. Do it now. Yep. Why wait when you can potentially be 20 more games into the season, and who knows how many points you would potentially could have gotten if you would have had this player on the roster now instead of waiting.
Well, it's not just that. It's not even just that. It's that teams are not waiting until trade deadline day to make deals. You saw some pretty big names getting moved out of
already
the New York Rangers. I don't know what they're doing up there, having a garage sale. Like Capo Caco was traded for absolutely nothing. A number 2 overall pick, like or whatever he was, like very high draft pick, just basically given away for nothing. Chris Drury, I don't know what he's on up there, but they need to look to get rid of him potentially, because he's just making some crazy deals, which is good for us.
Right? Yeah.
But
what, dismantling the Rangers? Oh, shucks.
Right, but getting back to that too, the Flyers not only need to if they're going to make some trades to get rid of. They shouldn't just make trades to get rid of a veteran player like a Risto or something for another first round pick that's going to be maybe something in 2 or 3 years time. They need to get somebody now like Ryan McAllister who can help now with the talent that is coming in right now or potentially next year to kind of build off of that. And another way they could do that, Steel, is to sign college free agents, like they have a little bit in the past. Some teams are very good at it, like the Penguins and others, who generally draft very late or get rid of all their picks because they're trying to keep that last chance at another title run going. And, if they were to do this type of deal, to get somebody like a Ryan McAllister, who scored 139 points in juniors, I would say what better way to go out and get his old line mate, who scored like 127 points or something as well, when he played with him, in TJ Hughes from Michigan. And undrafted free agent, somebody that could come in and,
Yeah, I've heard that name floating around a lot
right,
too.
right. So he's had quite a good year last year, and everything like that. It's just another guy who's kind of slipped through the cracks there. But I mean, the year they played together, they scored 266 combined points together. And it's kind of like the same process that Colorado did. When they brought in certain players to play together in Nathan McKinnon and what's his old line mate there?
Landeskog Landeskog's hurt, but
no, in juniors. But anyway,
I'm sorry.
Druin. Him and Druin played together in Halifax, and kind of trying to rekindle that same chemistry, from guys that played together. But anyway, it's what I'm trying to get out here is they need to look at other things, not just sitting around and waiting for the draft to come, because as we all know, you're not going to always, strike oil in the draft. It's a crapshoot. A guy in juniors can play amazingly, and then at the next level doesn't really make it or turn out right. So we need to do something now, and whatever. But like we said earlier, I think the Flyers have been listening, because they have turned it on in the last couple of games here, with a win last night in overtime, and everything like that. But they've been beaten down by some teams they probably shouldn't have lost to. But
exactly,
some of the players that we spoke of, in at least the center position, have kind of stepped up, and Scotty Lawton and Morgan Frost getting a couple of goals.
Yeah.
Noah Cates got on the board.
Right.
Ryan Paling scored a goal the other night. Yep. And it's like somebody was reading this article and kind of saying, oh, crap, I need to step it up here.
I like what one of the comments was about this article that said, hey, can Danny Briere read this?
Right. Yeah.
By the way, would like to say big, huge props and thanks to all the Facebook groups and all of us, all of them out there, for allowing us to post our articles and our shows and everything out there. We really appreciate the feedback that we get from you guys. It's really great. By the way, if you like what we do, please hit the like and subscribe. Hop on over to SteelFlyers.com. Check out all the latest articles and all the latest shows that we do over there, from Prospect Watch to Hockey Writers Ink to the Nittany Report. By all means, go over there and check that out. The next thing I want to talk about, Lance, is this. We've seen, since Erisson's been back now, we've seen the rotation of Erisson and Kozlov, right, in goal. And I got to be honest with you, man. I think it's time to see Ivan again. Yeah. Because over the last 4 games, they've given up over 20 goals, those 2 goalies. And these 2 guys are supposed to be our best goalies. What? How is it that you lose 2 games by 7 goals? What?
Yeah, in the last 2 outings, Erisson gave up 4 goals and 5 goals. So that's 9 goals in 2 games. And then, if you look at the last couple of games for Alexei, 6 goals against the Kings he gave up, and he gave up 1 against Detroit coming in, but 4 goals and 4 goals from Boston and Florida. you can't win many games when you're letting in that many goals.
No.
And not saying it's all their fault. The defense have been
Right.
horrible,
Oh
but
yeah. We'll get into that in a minute.
right. But as far as Ivan goes, I think he was turning a corner there. He looked
I think so
sharp
too.
when Urson was down. And I mean, and December 5th was his last game. He gave up 2 goals against Florida. In against the Rangers, he won that game and only let in 1 goal. So I think he started to get it once he got more playing time with Harrison
Hello.
out. And then all of a sudden, Harrison comes back in, and he's thrown to, the rafters or whatever, up, not being dressed, and you know, shoot, he was getting going like he is the highest paid goaltender on this roster, and for good reason as far as what he produced in the KHL. It's a totally different game over here, and I think he was finally starting to get it, and the Flyers pulled him out. And when Urson came back in, and I just don't see that when you ride that hot goaltender, and as far as I'm concerned, Ivan was really getting on a roll there, and then just kind of abruptly made the stop.
So that's why I said I think it's time to see Ivan again, because clearly Alexei is on a snag, on a bad, on a whatever you want to call it, right? And we're still seeing mistakes from Harrison too. Like that turnover last night. What he did behind the net. Look, if you are not confident enough to go back there to handle the puck, then let it go. There's nothing wrong with you standing there in your net and watching that puck go around, right?
Yeah, it was never one of my big strengths playing and I just kind of let it go. Most of the time I would just stop it. I'm no Ron Hextall, so I knew that and kept my butt in the crease.
Or no Shesterkin or no Martin Brodeur, where you can basically stick handle with a puck back there with that goalie stick. Look, if you can't do that, then don't.
Yeah.
Stay in your net. See what happens when you stay in your net.
Yeah, play to your strengths.
I mean, look, Harrison is a good goalie. Okay? We know he's a good goalie because we've seen him play well. And we also seen Alexei play well too, and we know that he's a pretty good goalie too. And this is kind of why I wanted to talk about this a little bit, because I wanted to bleed this in a little bit to why we think there's so many goals against here for the Flyers. And I'm going to go in with this one right here. Ever since he's come back, Drysdale who? Haven't heard or seen nothing of him. I know that a defenseman is supposed to be, if you don't hear about him, that's good, but he's supposed to be an offensive threat. And I don't hear nothing about him. I don't hear his name being called unless it's something that's bad happening. Oh, it's a turnover, or oh, it's a giveaway, or Cam York. We've seen good things from Cam York. Where's he been he was scratched the other night, right? What's going on?
Yeah, I don't know. This defense is not looking good. There's tons of young talent on this blue line, but like you said, Jamie Drysdale just looks frustrated in a sense. He's been -3 for last night's game against Columbus, and he was -3 against the Kings. And as far as production goes, what production? Like you said, he's played in 22 games because, of course, he got hurt again this season. But in those 22 games, he only has scored 1 goal and 4 assists for 5 points, and he's a -12 on the season. That's not getting the job done. And you look at Cam York, who you said was supposed to be, a bigger name on this blue line, and he had a good game against Columbus where he had an assist and he was a +2, which is a lot better than he was doing. Where he's putting up goose eggs. He's supposed to be an offensive production as well. And, in 20 games played, he's has 3 goals and 3 assists for 6 points. And, he's a career minus 30 player. This guy was a first round pick, inside the top 15, and he's 23 now. He's not, he's played with the Flyers for multiple seasons now, this being part of his fourth or fifth season with the Flyers, if you can believe that, in 2020,
I mean,
21
already.
season, he only played three games, but it was an NHL experience for sure. But yes, he's played multiple seasons with the Flyers now, as a mainstay on that Flyers blue line, and he's not really doing what he was brought in or drafted to do. And that's pretty bad when you're getting outshined by a rookie like Emil Andre coming in and playing, granted he's not putting up tons of points either, but he's played solid, for the 20 games that he's been brought in and bounced
Emil
back
Andre
out of the lineup.
is a defensive defenseman. Right, he's not known to be this,
Right.
offensive juggernaut, right? And when you see, look, I can tell you of the games that I watched Emil Andre, I can count on one hand how many of the mistakes that I actually saw him make.
Yes.
Okay, on one hand. But I still see mistakes made by Cam York. I still see mistakes made by Jamie Drysdale. And look, and we all know that Tortorella is like, look, we don't mind you taking the chances.
Right.
We want you to take the chances. We want you to be creative. We want you to do those things. But you can't give the puck away, right? And you can't leave your goalies hanging out to dry because you're trying to do all this fancy stuff in front of your own net.
Yeah.
I mean, okay.
Cam York and Jamie Drysdale are offensive defensemen that are supposed to be putting up points for us. And they're getting outscored by Nick Seeler, who's a third defensive pairing defenseman and who's supposed to be, that solid piece on the back end to kind of let those guys be able to go up and do their thing. So
exactly.
There's a lot of questions, surrounding. I mean, Ristolainen scored more than Cam York or Jamie Drysdale. So there's something.
And Ristolainen is not exactly a barn burner neither,
No, I mean, he scored a lot when he was younger, but that's not his necessarily game.
Right.
Scratching my head,
your head.
Yeah, it's at least Sanheim is doing what he's supposed to be doing.
But he has been playing lights out. I have really liked what Sanheim has done and how he's really improved his game.
Yeah, I mean, I was never a huge Sanheim fan. I think
me neither.
A kid that's 6'4" and 222 pounds should be a little bit more physical on the back end than he is. But I've come to be okay with that, with the amount of production that he's putting up, and he's one of the only defensemen that is a plus defenseman, being that it's only a +2, but he's definitely coming around to being a solid defenseman, and
he's the Flyers leading ice time guy. He's averaging over 26 minutes a game. Right, that's in the top 5 in the NHL as far as that's going.
And he's having to because of everybody not doing their job. I mean, he played over 25 minutes a game against Columbus. Yeah. So, he's taken on that workhorse as he should. He's now 28 years old.
I would say he's the top defenseman on the team.
And that's a problem, I think.
It is.
That is a problem. I mean, the Flyers have been focusing on, offense for some time now. And, they drafted, Sanheim in the first round years ago. And they've since drafted some other defense. But I think it's time this draft to actually get some help again early, in the first round of this draft or in the second round. I think they need to go back to getting some defensemen in this draft that can kind of do something on the back end.
Hey, here's a novel concept, guys, right? Hey, You draft a defenseman to, guess what? Play defense. And you draft wingers and centers to, guess what? Play offense. Why are you drafting defensemen that are offensively minded? Look, I understand the concept behind it. I understand why a lot of teams fall in love with it. But when you look at the teams that have won the cup, those teams have defensive defensemen back there. They're not worried about their defense coming up and scoring goals. Is it a bonus if they do? Yes. But that just means that they're jumping up on the play. But they're being responsible. There's a winger that's going back to cover his spot. If you don't have that, then you jumping up into the play is dangerous. Play your position first. Then worry about all the other, extracurriculars, right? You're supposed to be a defenseman, play defense first. If the offense comes, bonus, right? Trust me, if you play the game that way, the offense will come.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying anything that hasn't been proven over and over again by Stanley Cup winning teams, right? This is not an old concept,
Yeah, I mean, I get you. I'm for that. We have the pieces in place that should be producing offensively.
Yeah.
I want defensive defensemen in this draft, and I think with one of the first round picks, they should be drafting Kayshawn Aitchison, who we interviewed on Prospect Watch.
All day.
A player that was born to be a Flyer, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Just plays with grit, a shutdown defender. He plays for the Barrie Colts. Amazing kid, amazing defender. And then Carter Amico for Team USA, 6'5", 205-pound defenseman on the back end who just clears the porch in front of the
Nasty
net,
guy, yeah.
wins board battles.
Yep.
Erases people out of plays, wraps people up. Amazing talent, and he should fall somewhere in the second round. So at least I know we need centers, but at least, Danny, please draft these two kids with, these two picks, one in each round, and then go get some centers if you want them. I know you're a center yourself, and you want some centers to help this team out, and they need it, but get some defense as well that can play defense. These guys you watch these games recently. Why are these teams on 3-on-0 breaks against our goaltenders? Good Lord, no good. Who could stop that with 3 NHL players coming down on you versus no defenders? And, they score the goal, and then you see the guys coming back into position, into the camera frame there on defense. We need some guys that can play defense as well. Like
concept.
You said, Steel, we have 3 pretty good goaltenders in net now to pick from. But when you don't give them anybody to play in front of them that wants to play defense, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to, keep those pucks out of your net. I don't know.
I'm with you on that, but I'll tell you what. Let's change gears here a little bit. And instead of talking about a team that's been 1-3 in their last 4 games, let's talk about a team that's been 3-1 in their last 4 games. And that's right, folks. We're going to shift gears and we're going to talk about the Philadelphia Flyers farm team, and that is the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. And how about them Phantoms, boy? Up until last night, they were on a 3-game win streak, playing really well. Guys been scoring, doing really well. They dropped a heartbreaker a little bit last night to the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, which those games are always tough for the Phantoms. They've been playing them tough this year. You know what I mean? So they got a couple more games left against them guys, but the Phantoms are starting to slowly climb the charts. I think they're 4th in the division right now, right? They're starting to win games. They just came off a 3-game win streak. They lost last night, but 3-1 in the last 4 games. You're seeing guys like Ollie Lexell, putting up hat tricks. You're seeing guys like Richard doing well. You're seeing guys coming back down to the Phantoms like Emile Andre playing well. I mean, it just seems like that corner has been kind of turned here with the Phantoms. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're coming together as a team. The Flyers pulled a lot of those players,
At the
like you
beginning of the
just
season,
like
you
you
know what I
said,
mean?
towards the beginning of the season. So they kind of had to rely on some players that they necessarily didn't expect to have to play such a huge role. And some of the players have been stepping up, and one of those guys that I'd like to highlight is a guy who I think the Flyers just re-signed and Jacob Gosher.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
man, he's been playing well, and hey, a center at that, right? He's a 6'3", 185-pound center who is signed now through the 25-26 season with the Flyers for pennies on the dollar, and he's kind of went through the ECHL. He played a little bit with the Phantoms last year and did well. But this season, man, he's coming on and 13 goals, 9 assists for 22 points in 28 games played. Leading scorer on the Flyers as far as goals go.
right. Plays
And
on their top line.
yep, projected to score 33 goals this season, 23 assists for 56 points. Bring him up. Bring him
I
up.
was just
Give
gonna
him a
say,
chance.
can we
Give him a
have that?
chance. He played in the Q in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey
Yeah,
League and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
kind of went undrafted there, but was signed by the Flyers and has some family that's played some pretty good hockey in his father and brother as well, Nathan Gosher, who was signed as well right now. So, and playing in the Ducks farm system, first
Oh,
round
okay.
pick for them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Pretty darn good player that I think I've talked about a little before. When he was drafted, I liked him as well. So, comes from a hockey family, but definitely, I'm not wishing somebody would get injured on the Flyers, but if they do, I think he should be one of the next call-ups,
I agree.
and let him relegate a role, in those dots and see what he can do.
What do you got
At
to
this
lose at
point,
this point?
I would like to see guys like Richard and Gosher come up and have a chance, at this point. What is to hurt? The Flyers are hurting themselves at this point.
You mean Frost for a game or two? Oh darn. You mean sit Cates for a game or two? Oh darn. What's it gonna
Failing,
hurt?
yeah, yeah,
What's it gonna hurt?
yep.
Seriously, what's it gonna hurt? Right? At least that way you can see what you got in this kid. I don't think he's been called up
Mm-mm.
this season, and I don't remember him being a call up at all this season. So
And
it would be nice.
I think that's why they re-signed him, so that they could. I think he was with an AHL contract. Now I
Yeah.
believe, don't quote me on this, I believe he's a two-way contract now, so that
Okay.
potentially they could. So, at this point, let's try everybody we do have, and then we know what they got
See what
or
we
what they
got.
don't
Yeah.
got, and they're dropping games to teams that they shouldn't. So, as I'm not trying to get back on the Flyers because really the Phantoms have been doing better than the Flyers in their own, right. And really just like what I see from this team and, head coach, Ian LaPerriere there has got these guys playing and rightfully so with the call up of Ollie, although he just hasn't seemed to be, getting going in the NHL as far as how well he's doing in the AHL. But like you said, Steel, I think before we started the show, maybe they move him up in a line or so, and giving him a chance would be something. Taking one of those guys on the wing that maybe necessarily isn't producing at the same rate that they once were, and dropping them down a line, maybe that'll kickstart them and potentially be able to kickstart Ollie as well.
Yeah,
If he gets a point on the board in the NHL, and get him going this season up
exactly.
with us. Who knows? You know, it wouldn't be
Could
the
be.
strangest
It
thing.
couldn't
It couldn't
hurt.
hurt because the Flyers, like to switch around lines a little bit. They
No,
don't have cemented, first line or second line. So
no.
guys move around a little bit. Why not give them a shot? So who knows?
I'm with you on that. You know what I mean? Now, Phantom's got some tough games coming up here. They got a tough game here after Christmas on the 27th. I'm against those Penguins again. That seems to be the rivalry. More so, I think, than the Hershey games, because Hershey is just really good this year. I mean, they're the defending Calder Cup champions, and they've just been playing really, really well. And they usually play well against the Phantoms. Now the Phantoms have had one or two with them, but it's kind of back and forth. You know what I mean? But I really feel that there's more of that animosity there with the baby Pens. You know what I mean?
That's a rivalry game. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And last night they took one on the chin and lost 7-2, and I have a feeling they're going to be a little bit, especially after full of holiday cheer going into the 27th game with a little bit more fire under the, to try to take that one back. But and then of course the game on the 28th against the Checkers, the Florida Panthers team, and oh, it just so happens to be the team that Lance wrote the article about with Ryan McAllister. Oh, yeah, what do you know?
Hey,
And
look at
guess
that.
who's
Yeah.
gonna be at that game, folks? That's right, Steel Flyers is gonna be at that game along with the Lance man. We gonna be there to cover that game for the Phantoms. So that's the 28th. Be sure to check that out. We'll have some special content coming out after that for sure. So, Lance, I think we got a good one here, buddy. We talked about what the Flyers need to do down the middle. You wrote a great, awesome article. Go over to steelflyers.com and check out that article. You wrote a great article about a player that the team could use. It's not going to break the bank. It's not going to give up draft picks or anything like that. And they could bring in a player that could help them now, because clearly that's what they need, help now. Look, we understand we're building for the future, and this is what a whole part of a rebuild is, where you bring players in that maybe might be those bridge players, where they're going to help you get to the point where you need to get to, but they might not necessarily be on the team once you get there. You know what I mean? You need to have some of them guys that can be on the team, that can help the team now, right? But they might not be part of the future.
Well, I mean, or they very well could be. Who knows?
Or they could be. Who knows?
Yeah. But to keep putting out the same guys over and over and over again,
and expecting different results,
year in and year out, and expecting different results is just stupid in my mind.
It's insanity.
I mean,
it's insanity.
Talking about him, I'm not a fan. I'm sorry, but guys like Morgan Frost, he is what he is. Is he a second line player? No, he's not. He's benefiting from getting the opportunities that he has because the Flyers don't have the depth down the middle. So he's playing, above himself as far as, who he's playing with. He's a third line center on a playoff contending team
at best.
So why are the Flyers continuing to put him out? He's 25 years old now. He's been drafted since 2017. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years he's now been with the Flyers alone, let alone within the Flyers organization with the Phantoms before that,
Can I get the
let's
big hedge clippers out? I mean,
just
is this not enough? Can
let's
we cut ties with this guy already? I mean, can I get the big out hedge clippers, or do I have to
if
break out the
somebody's
freaking
willing to
lawnmower?
take him, let him clear out space for some new blood. Um, you know, if he goes and thrives somewhere else, great. He's
Great.
not working out here.
You
Um, the
know
the
what, Lance?
Flyers built some of those centers to be defensively responsible players to help out. Well, he's not even that. All right. He's
Exactly.
-7 this year. He's a -29 on his career, as well as some of these other guys. Scott Lawton. Okay, Scott Lawton's a good NHL player. You're building for the future. If you can get a first round pick for him, if you can trade him for some young, talented player, then let's do it. He's been with the
Yeah.
organization for 10 to 15 years. And he's a great guy. He's a great NHL player, but he's a third line player on a good team
At best.
at best. So let's
With his age and everything now, he's played to that third line. You know what I mean? All right. Well, so now here's the thing. This team needs help now. We clearly know it's a rebuild. That's what I was trying to get to with this whole thing. Give your team the opportunity to see what you got because you're in a rebuild. That kind of takes the pressure off. You don't have to win right now. You don't have to be a contender right now because you're in a rebuild. Take that opportunity and rebuild and see what you got and bring in these players and see what you got. Otherwise, all you're doing is putting the same guys out on the ice and expecting different results. You're expecting wins from guys who aren't capable of giving you the wins, right? Okay. So we're really liking how the Phantoms have come along. We feel like that they're turning the corner. We feel that we need to see Ivan Fedotov a little bit more playing time. We felt that he was kind of turning the corner as well too. Go over to SteelFlyers.com, check out Lance's latest article for sure. Big props and thanks to the Facebook groups for allowing us to post all of our stuff out onto your sites and for giving us all the great feedback that you guys give us, man. We really, really, really appreciate that. Also, oh yeah, get yourself on over to the place where you need to listen to the best music on the planet. That's right, folks. LowerCaseBlues.net. Hop on over there to see Jake and the boys. They got swag. They got all kinds of dates and everything on there for you to go check them out. And they also got some videos on there where you can listen to their music, man. I got to tell you, they're the ones that provide the music for the opening of this show, and they are definitely worth the listen. Go check out lowercaseblues.net. That's lowercaseblues.net. Check them guys out. Also, big thanks to Sports Spider. They post out all of our stuff from all of Lance's articles, all of our shows. Be sure to go check them out for all the Flyers' latest information, where you can see all the stuff from Steel Flyers, from all of our shows and all the articles that Lance writes. Big thanks and props to Sports Spider. Lance, you got anything in the works? I know you just posted out an article the other day here, but you got anything in the works?
I have some ideas on my sketch pad or, of different ideas and trying to gather where I'm going to go from here. I think we got a lot of good shows coming out
Yeah.
in the works, or at least we need to find time to record.
Record them.
Have been working with a couple of different prospects as well to get them on Prospect Watch. But,
Yeah.
hopefully over this holiday break, I'm going to be tuning into a lot of hockey as far as the World Juniors goes.
Oh,
The
yeah,
Flyers
buddy.
do have a couple of prospects with Jet Lachenko and
Oliver
such.
Bonk's going to be playing,
Yeah,
right?
Bonk's playing as well on Team Canada. So, I want to see some of those guys and how they're progressing in their seasons, this year and as well as against the best of the world. So that is what I'm going to be doing over this holiday season. I hope
Me
the
too.
best for everybody and their families, in this time of year. So,
Sure, man.
spend some time with the families, watch some great hockey, and it doesn't get better than that, Steel.
There you go, man. That's what it's all about, especially this time of year. Listen, take the time to tell the people that are important in your life that you love them and that you care about them, and take the time to spend time with them, because you are not guaranteed your next breath. Okay. And life is too short. And especially with the holidays and Christmas and this time of year, get with your families, get with your people, and tell them that you love them and let them know that you care. Okay. Because here at Steel Flyers, we care about y'all, and we want to wish you guys a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And we can't wait to see you guys going here with Christmas and everything. And man, with what Lance said, we're going to be watching some great hockey with the IIHF juniors coming up here starting on the 26th. Flyers are going to be playing some good games. And of course, the Phantoms are going to be playing some good games. I'm your host, Ron Steel Flyers, and we will catch you all on the next episode of the Hockey Writers Ink.